The silver ship of the Galactic Concorde hung in orbit around the blue-green planet. Inside the ship, Dury wrung his four hands together nervously. The thin, tall alien with pale green skin looked at the readings on the screen again and shook his head. "This cannot be right," he said to the ship's captain. "Look at these numbers. Gravity at 1.0 g, oxygen levels at 21%, nitrogen at 78%, radiation from their sun, storms, earthquakes, volcanoes, thousands of predator species, and yet they have cities, technology, spaceflight." The captain, a six-limbed creature with transparent skin, looked grim. "It's confirmed. We found intelligent life on a Category 5 death world. The Council must be informed." 6 months later, Taz stood before the mirror in his quarters aboard the human ship *Resilience*. He straightened his formal blue uniform and took a deep breath. "Ready for this?" Jai-Ho asked, entering the room. The military man wore a simple black uniform with silver pins showing his rank. "As ready as I'll ever be," Ta said. "First human ambassador to an alien alliance. No pressure." Jai-Ho laughed. "They invited us, remember? Though from the messages, they seem more confused than friendly." Ta nodded. "They can't understand how we survived on Earth. To them, our home is a nightmare world of death and danger. Their problem, not ours," Jai-Ho said with a shrug. "We're tough. They'll learn that soon enough." A voice came over the speaker. "Ambassador, we're docking with Concorde Station in 5 minutes." The Concorde Station was massive, a spinning wheel of metal and glass that housed representatives from 30 different alien species. As the airlock opened, Tai and Jai-Ho got their first look at the welcoming committee. 3 different alien species stood waiting. Dury, the tall green Viridian, stepped forward. "Welcome to the Galactic Concorde," he said, his translator making his strange clicks and whistles into understandable words. "I am Dury, your guide to Concorde customs and protocols." Ta bowed slightly. "Thank you for your welcome. I am Ta, ambassador from Earth. This is Jai-Ho, our military attaché." The aliens kept a noticeable distance from the humans. Dury's large eyes blinked rapidly. "Please follow me to the decontamination chamber," Dury said. "It's standard procedure." Jai-Ho frowned. "We cleaned up before coming. Our ship has its own decontamination. It's protocol," Dury insisted, a slight tremor in his voice. Tai placed a hand on Jai-Ho's arm. "We're happy to follow your protocols." As they walked through the station, Ta noticed how other aliens moved away as they passed. Some shut breathing vents. Others watched with too many eyes, all fixed on the humans. "They're afraid of us," Ta whispered to Jai-Ho. "Because we come from Earth." "Exactly. From what I understand, most Concorde species evolved on gentle worlds. Limited predators, stable weather, low gravity, no tectonic activity." "Sounds boring," Jai-Ho said with a smile. The welcome ceremony was held in a large hall with curved walls and a glass ceiling showing the stars. Representatives from all Concorde species sat in tiered seats, watching the humans with mixtures of fear, curiosity, and disgust. The head counselor, a floating jelly-like creature, hovered at the center of the room. "We welcome our visitors from Earth," the counselor said. "Though your world is classified as a Category 5 death world, we recognize your achievement in developing intelligence and technology in such hostile conditions." Tai felt a flash of anger, but kept his face calm. Earth wasn't hostile. It was home. Beautiful, varied, and alive in ways these aliens couldn't understand. "We thank the Concorde for this opportunity," Ta said. "Earth looks forward to sharing knowledge and friendship with all your worlds." A murmur ran through the crowd. One reptilian alien leaned toward another and whispered loudly enough for the humans to hear. "They look so fragile, yet they survived that planet. Imagine what their wars must be like." Jai-Ho stiffened beside Ta. The ceremony continued with speeches and presentations about the Concorde's history and achievements. Then came the ritual of welcome, the passing of the star crystal, a delicate glass-like object that each new member touched as a symbol of joining. When the crystal reached Dury, he was meant to hand it to Ta. But as he extended it, his hand trembled. The crystal slipped from his grasp. What happened next occurred in seconds, but seemed to unfold in slow motion for everyone watching. Jai-Ho moved with the trained reflexes of a soldier. He lunged forward, his hand shooting out to catch the falling crystal before it could shatter on the floor. He caught it easily, one hand wrapping around the delicate object just inches from disaster. But to the watching aliens, they saw something else, a Deathworlder moving with impossible speed, lunging toward their representative. Several security guards raised weapons. Someone screamed. A small, rabbit-like alien fainted. Jai-Ho froze, the crystal safe in his hand. He slowly straightened up. "Sorry," he said, "just didn't want it to break." Silence filled the hall. Then Dury, recovering from his shock, let out a nervous laugh. "Such quick reflexes," he said. "Thank you for saving our sacred crystal." Ta stepped forward smoothly. "On Earth, we have a game where we throw and catch small objects." Jai-Ho was a champion. This wasn't true, but it sounded better than explaining combat reflexes honed by military training. Jai-Ho carefully handed the crystal to Ta, who completed the ceremony by touching it to his forehead as instructed. The crystal glowed briefly, accepting Earth as part of the Concord. The rest of the ceremony passed without incident, but Tai could feel the tension in the room. The aliens were now even more wary of the humans than before. Later, in their assigned quarters, Tai and Jai-Ho discussed the day's events. "Well, that could have gone better," Ta said, removing his formal jacket. "I just caught the thing," Jai-Ho said, shaking his head. "You'd think I pulled out a weapon." "To them, you are a weapon," Captain Han said, joining them. The captain of the Resilience had watched the ceremony from the back of the hall. "I've been reading the materials they gave us. Most Concord species have never faced predators. Their homeworlds have perfect weather, no earthquakes, low gravity. So they think we're monsters because Earth has thunderstorms and lions?" Jai-Ho asked. "Essentially," Han said. "They can't understand how we survived, let alone built civilizations. Our normal is their nightmare." Ta sat heavily in a chair. "How do we build bridges with people who are terrified of us?" "Time," Han said. "Show them we're more than what they fear." A chime sounded, and a message appeared on the room's display screen. Tai read it and looked up with concern. "We may get that chance sooner than expected," he said. "There's an emergency meeting of the Council in 1 hour. A crisis in the Lumina system." "What kind of crisis?" Jai-Ho asked. "Solar flares threatening an agricultural world. Billions of lives at risk." Ta looked at his companions. "They're asking all member representatives to attend. Even the scary Deathworlders." Han asked with a raised eyebrow. "Even us," Ta confirmed. "This might be our opportunity to show them what humans can do when things get tough." "And things getting tough is our specialty," Jai-Ho said with a grim smile. Outside their window, the stars shone steadily, indifferent to the fears and hopes of the species living among them. Somewhere out there, a world was in danger, and perhaps the people best equipped to help were the ones everyone feared, the humans from Earth, the Deathworlders who had learned to thrive in adversity. The emergency council chamber buzzed with worried voices. Ta and Jai-Ho stood near the back, watching as aliens from 30 different worlds argued about what to do. On the large screen above them, a star burned angry red, shooting massive flares into space. "The luminous sun has entered an unexpected active phase," explained a small blue alien with multiple eyes. "The solar flares are 100 times stronger than normal. The radiation will destroy Lumina's atmosphere in days." A tall, plant-like alien stepped forward. Her skin glowed faintly with inner light, and instead of hair, she had delicate leaf-like structures. This was Ga-Yul, the governor of Lumina. "My people cannot survive this," she said, her voice translated as musical but desperate. "We are photosynthetic. We need specific light to live. These flares will burn our skin and destroy our crops. All 8 billion luminary are at risk." The head counselor floated forward. "We have dispatched science vessels, but the radiation levels are too high for our crews to work effectively. We need solutions." Tai leaned toward Jaiho. "This sounds like a job for humans." Jaiho nodded. "Sun Mei and Jun arrived on the *Resilience* yesterday. Perfect timing." Tide raised his hand. The chamber grew quiet as all eyes turned to the human. "Earth has dealt with radiation, extreme weather, and environmental disasters throughout our history," Ta said. "We would like to help." Gayul looked at Ta with hope, but other council members looked doubtful. "With respect, Ambassador," said a reptilian alien, "what could Deathworlders offer besides more destruction?" Ta kept his face calm. "Because we come from a challenging world, we've developed solutions you might not have considered. We have 2 specialists aboard our ship, a xenobiologist and an environmental engineer. Let us go to Lumina." The council erupted in arguments. Some feared sending humans to a crisis. Others saw no better options. Finally, the head counselor raised its tentacles for silence. "We have little choice," it said. "The humans may assist, but under Concord supervision." The human ship *Resilience* arrived at Lumina 2 days later. From orbit, they could see the beautiful world, covered in vast purple forests and blue oceans. But the angry red sun filled half the sky, spitting fire toward the planet. In the ship's conference room, Sun Mei pointed to data on a screen. The xenobiologist had spent her career studying life on extreme worlds. The luminary evolved on a world with a stable sun and no ozone problems. She explained to Tai, Jaiho, and Captain Han. "Their skin is basically a solar panel, perfect for normal conditions, deadly under these flares." Jun, the environmental engineer, nodded. "Their atmospheric shields are failing. Within a week, Lumina will be unlivable." "Can we help them?" Tai asked. Sun Mei smiled. "Earth plants have dealt with radiation stress for millions of years. Some can produce compounds that act as natural sunscreen. I think we can synthesize something similar for the luminary. And I can modify our emergency atmospheric filters to work on a planetary scale," Jun added. "But we'll need to build and install them directly in the upper atmosphere, under intense radiation," Captain Han noted. Jun shrugged. "Nothing worse than working near Chernobyl during cleanup." When they landed on Lumina, they found a world in panic. The beautiful forests were starting to wilt under the increased radiation. Luminary were crowding into underground shelters, but these were not designed for long-term living. A photosynthetic species could not survive long without light. Gayul met them at the landing pad. Her leaf hair had dulled, and her skin glowed weakly. "The Concord ships cannot stay," she said. "The radiation damages their crews too quickly. Their scientists can only work for 1 hour before becoming ill." "Good thing we're used to harsh conditions," Jaiho said. Sun Mei held up a sample vial. "Governor, I need access to your genetics lab. I believe I can create a compound that will protect your people from the worst radiation. And I need your engineers and construction robots," Jun added. "We're going to build atmospheric filters." Gayul looked confused. "You will work outside, in this radiation?" Jaiho grinned. "Earth has radiation too. We know how to handle it." For the next 3 days, the humans worked constantly. Sun Mei mixed compounds in the lab, testing them on small samples of luminary plant tissue. Jun designed massive filters that could be positioned in the upper atmosphere, using luminary technology in ways its creators never imagined. The luminary scientists watched in amazement as the humans worked 18-hour shifts. When radiation levels rose, the humans simply put on protective gear and continued working. When a construction robot failed, Jaiho and Jun went outside to fix it themselves, spending hours in conditions that would kill a luminary in minutes. "Are all humans this durable?" Gayul asked Tai as they watched Jai-Ho lift a heavy component into place. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us daily, Tai explained. Storms, predators, disease, natural disasters. Earth forced us to adapt or die. What seems extreme to you is just Tuesday for us. On the fourth day, the first atmospheric filter was ready. It needed to be placed 30 miles above the surface. The luminary ships couldn't handle the radiation, but the Resilience could. Captain Han piloted the ship himself. Jun and Ji-Ho worked on the outside of the hull, anchoring the massive filter in place as solar flares lashed around them. Their protective suits could only do so much, and both men received radiation doses that would require medical treatment later. But they finished the job. As the first filter activated, a visible change came over the patch of sky above. The angry red light softened, filtered to remove the deadly radiation, while allowing through the wavelengths the luminary needed to survive. It works, Gayul exclaimed, looking up at the protected sky. But we need dozens more to cover the planet. Then we better keep working, Jai-Ho said, wincing slightly from radiation burns, but still standing strong. Meanwhile, Sunmei had a breakthrough. She created a compound that, when injected into luminary, would temporarily alter their photosynthesis process to handle the changed light conditions. It's not permanent, she explained to Gayul, but it will keep your people alive until we get all the filters in place. Gayul stared at the syringe of golden liquid. You created this in 4 days. Our scientists said such a thing was impossible. Sunmei smiled. On Earth, we learned that impossible just means try harder. The treatment worked. Luminary who received it could safely go outside under the filtered sections of sky. Soon, they were able to help the humans build and install more filters. By the end of 2 weeks, half the planet was protected. The humans had worked to the point of exhaustion. Ji-Ho and Jun both showed signs of radiation sickness, but refused to stop working. Sunmei had barely slept, constantly refining her formula to make it more effective. The Concorde sent more ships to observe, but not to help. They were amazed to see the humans functioning in conditions their own people couldn't tolerate for even short periods. One evening, Gayul found Ta looking up at the sky, where another filter had just been activated. My people feared humans when we first heard about you, she said quietly. We were told Deathworlders were dangerous, unpredictable, violent. And now? Tai asked. Gayul's skin glowed brighter than it had in days. Now we see that growing up on a world that challenges you creates strength. You are terrifying, yes, but in a way that saves rather than destroys. As she spoke, a message came through from the Concorde Council. Tai read it and looked up with worry. The situation has changed, he said. We're being called back to Central Station immediately. But the filters are not all in place, Gayul protested. It's not about Lumina anymore, Ta said grimly. The Hive has attacked the Central Station. The Concorde is under direct threat. Gayul's glow dimmed with fear. The Hive. But they've been dormant for centuries. Not anymore, Ta said. And from this message, the situation is desperate. He looked up at the half-protected sky of Lumina, thinking of the work still to be done here. But if the Hive destroyed the Concorde, none of it would matter. It seems the Deathworlders are needed again, he said quietly. The Resilience dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the Concorde Central Station. What they saw made everyone on the bridge fall silent. The massive space station was surrounded by strange, insect-like ships. Parts of the station were dark, with sections venting atmosphere into space. Flashes of weapons fire sparked across its surface. The Hive, Captain Han said grimly. I've read about them in the Concorde database. They're a collective mind controlling millions of drone bodies. Tai studied the tactical display. The Concorde defenses are failing. We need to get aboard and help. Our weapons are limited, Han reminded him. We're a diplomatic vessel, not a warship. Jai-Ho stepped forward. Despite still showing signs of radiation sickness from Lumina, his eyes were alert. We don't need to outgun them. We need to outthink them. Sun Mei and Jun joined them on the bridge. Two more humans had also arrived. Min, a security specialist, and Da, a combat medic. They had been sent from Earth as additional support staff before the crisis began. The Concord communications are still working, Jun said, listening to his earpiece. They're reporting that the hive is targeting life support systems. The station's atmosphere is becoming toxic to most Concord species. Min smiled grimly. But probably not to us. Deathworlders, remember. Get us in close, Tai ordered. We're going aboard. The Resilience docked at an emergency airlock. Sensors showed the air inside the station was now a mix of methane, carbon dioxide, and sulfur compounds, deadly to most Concord species, but merely unpleasant for humans. Jai-Ho, Min, and Dai put on lightweight breathing masks rather than full environmental suits. They needed mobility more than complete protection. The rest of the team wore similar gear. Stay together, Jai-Ho said as the airlock opened. Our priority is to reach central control and help coordinate the defense. They moved through corridors filled with emergency lighting and swirling toxic gases. The bodies of Concord security forces lay everywhere, overcome by the poisonous atmosphere. Dai checked each one they passed. Still alive, he reported for many. Their bodies have shut down to preserve vital functions. The hive knows exactly what environment will disable the Concord species, Tai realized. This was a carefully planned attack. They encountered their first hive drones at a junction. The creatures looked like 2-meter-tall insects with 4 arms and chitinous armor. They moved with perfect coordination, clearly controlled by a single mind. Min didn't hesitate. She fired her Concord-issued stun weapon, but it had little effect on the drones. Jai-Ho charged forward, tackling one drone while dodging the claws of another. His military training was evident in every movement. What followed was a short, brutal fight. The humans were outnumbered but moved with a speed and aggression that seemed to confuse the hive drones. On their homeworlds, Concord species would retreat from danger. The hive expected this behavior. They didn't expect humans to attack directly. When it was over, 4 hive drones lay broken on the deck. Min had a deep cut on her arm, but Dag quickly treated it. The hive shares all information, Ta said. Now they know we're different. Good, Jai-Ho said. Let them worry about us for a change. They fought their way to central control. Inside, they found Admiral Wyul of the Concord Defense Force. The tall, bird-like alien was one of the few still conscious, breathing through an emergency filter that was clearly failing. Humans, Wyul rasped, his voice weak. You should flee while you can. The hive has won. Not yet, Ta said firmly. Where are your remaining forces? Scattered, dying. The atmosphere. Wyul couldn't finish, coughing painfully. Day moved forward, checking Wyul's vital signs. He prepared a stimulant injection. This will help temporarily, but he needs clean air soon. June was already at the environmental controls. The hive has locked out the main systems, but I might be able to create safe zones if I can access the backup controls. Do it, Tai ordered. Min, help June. Jai-Ho, we need a defensive plan. Jai-Ho nodded and moved to the tactical display. The station has emergency bulkheads. If we can close them in the right sequence, we can trap groups of hive drones and deal with them one section at a time. What about weapons? Tai asked. Min looked up from where she was helping June. I saw some maintenance equipment 2 sections back. With some quick modifications, they'd make effective weapons against the drones. Admiral Wyul watched the humans with growing amazement as they quickly organized a defense with the limited resources available. The stimulant Da had given him was working, and he could think more clearly now. You function in this poison, he said to Ta. It's uncomfortable but not lethal to us, Tai explained. On Earth, we have areas with similar gases. volcanic regions, swamps, industrial zones. You live in such places. Some of us do. We adapt. Yule seemed to consider this. Perhaps we were wrong about Deathworlders. June managed to create safe zones in some parts of the station by rerouting life support. Concord security forces who had been incapacitated began to recover. Min converted maintenance tools into improvised weapons that could penetrate hive armor. Jai-Ho organized the recovering Concord forces and the humans into strike teams. The hive thinks in terms of overwhelming force, he explained. We'll use small, fast-moving teams to confuse them. The plan worked better than expected. The hive drones, used to fighting the more cautious Concord species, were unprepared for human tactics. Humans would attack when retreat seemed logical. They would endure pain and injury to complete an objective. They would sacrifice one position to gain advantage in another. In one crucial battle, Jai-Ho led a team to retake the main power core. Surrounded by hive drones, he was injured but continued fighting. When asked later how he could keep going with a broken arm and deep lacerations, he simply said, "I've had worse during training." Day set up a field hospital in one of the safe zones, using techniques developed on Earth's battlefields to save Concord lives. Working with limited supplies and under constant threat, he performed emergency procedures that Concord doctors would never attempt. Slowly, section by section, they reclaimed the station. The turning point came when June and Sunmei made a discovery about the hive. They're using pheromones to coordinate the drones, Sunmei explained, looking up from a captured drone she had been examining. The collective mind links them all, but the actual commands are transmitted chemically. Can we disrupt it? Tai asked. We can do better, Jun said. We can use the station's air filtration system to distribute a counteragent. It won't kill them, but it will break the hive's control temporarily. How temporarily? Jai-Ho asked. 10 minutes, maybe 15. Sunmei estimated. That's all we need, Jai-Ho said. The plan was risky. It required shutting down the safe zones Jun had created, exposing everyone to the toxic atmosphere again. The Concord forces would be incapacitated, leaving only the humans to fight. We're asking you to trust us completely, Ta told Admiral Weil. Once we release the counteragent, we'll have a short window to drive the hive back. Yule looked at the humans, battered, injured, but unbowed. A week ago, I would have called this plan suicide. Now, he straightened his posture. Do it. The Concord trusts its human allies. When the counteragent was released, chaos erupted. The hive drones, suddenly cut off from their controlling mind, stumbled in confusion. The 6 humans, wearing breath masks and armed with improvised weapons, launched their attack. What followed would become legend in Concord history. 6 Deathworlders fighting through toxic fumes, injured but unstoppable, driving back hundreds of disoriented hive drones. Jai-Ho leading the charge despite his injuries. Min using her modified tools with deadly precision. Day treating the wounded even while fighting. June and Sunmei coordinating from central control. And Ta, the diplomat, fighting alongside them all. The high ships, sensing the loss of control over their drones, began to retreat. By the time the counteragent wore off, the remaining drones were in full withdrawal. The Concord station was saved. As clean air was finally restored to the station, Admiral Raoul found Ta in central control, overseeing the final security suites. The Concord has misjudged humans, Yule said formally. We feared what you were because we did not understand. What makes you dangerous is precisely what makes you invaluable. Ta smiled tiredly. We're just doing what humans do, adapting and surviving. And helping others to survive, Yule added. The Council wishes to speak with you. I believe they have a proposal that will change humanity's place in the Concord forever. As emergency teams work to repair the damaged station, word spread throughout Concord space. The Deathworlders had saved them all. 1 month after the hive attack, the Concord Central Station had been fully repaired. In the Grand Council chamber, Representatives from all 30 member species gathered. The mood was different than before. When Tai and the other humans entered, there were no fearful whispers, no moved-away bodies. Instead, many aliens nodded respectfully. Some even attempted human-style smiles. Ambassador Tai, the head counselor, greeted. The Concord Council is formally recognizing the contribution of humanity during our recent crisis. Todd stood tall despite the healing injuries from the battle. Beside him, Jeho still had his arm in a medical cast. Sun Mei, Jun, Min, and Dai sat in honored positions. First, the counselor continued, "We recognize your work on Lumina. The atmospheric filters are now fully deployed, and Governor Gayul reports her world will recover completely." A holo image appeared, showing the purple forests of Lumina thriving under protected skies. Gayul's image appeared, her leaf hair vibrant and healthy. "The luminary people name humans as our eternal friends," she said. "You worked in conditions that would kill our people, to save our people. We will not forget." The head counselor floated forward. "Second, we recognize your defense of this station against the Hive. Admiral Newell has submitted a full report." Admiral Vital stepped forward, standing straighter than before when addressing the humans. "The humans fought in toxic air that disabled our forces," he said formally. "They adapted using minimal resources. They created tactics the Hive had never encountered. 6 humans drove back hundreds of Hive drones." He paused. "I have served the Concord for 80 years. I have never seen such courage." There were murmurs of agreement from the council. The head counselor raised its tentacles for silence. "Because of these events, the Concord proposes a new relationship with Earth. We wish to establish a special crisis response division, with humans as its core. Your adaptability to extreme conditions makes you uniquely qualified for emergency situations across Concord space." Tug glanced at his fellow humans. This was more than they had hoped for. True integration into the Concord as valued partners, not feared outsiders. "We accept with honor," Ta said. "Earth has always believed that strength carries responsibility. We will use our abilities to help, not harm." The formal ceremony concluded with the signing of the new agreement. After, many council representatives approached the humans to express personal thanks. The reptilian alien who had once dismissed them now bowed deeply before Jeho. "I believed Deathworlders could only destroy," he admitted. "You have taught the Concord an important lesson about judging others." Over the next 6 months, humans became a common sight throughout Concord space. Special training facilities were established, teaching Concord species and humans to work together effectively. On the water world of Aquara, when massive tidal waves threatened coastal cities, human deep-sea divers helped repair underwater stabilizers that the aquatic aquarians couldn't reach due to the pressure. On Voltar, when a mining accident trapped workers beneath tons of rock in crushing gravity, human rescue teams worked round the clock, their bodies better able to handle the strain than the fragile Voltarians. The Asterisk Resilience Asterisk became the flagship of the new Crisis Response Division, with Captain Hand commanding a mixed crew of humans and other species. Jeho trained Concord security forces in human combat techniques. Sun Mei worked with scientists across the Concord to develop new medical treatments based on Earth's biodiversity. Jun's environmental engineering innovations were implemented on dozens of worlds. Ta spent his time between Earth and Central Station, negotiating a more equal relationship. The Concord now eagerly sought human knowledge about surviving in harsh conditions, information they had once feared. 8 months after the Hive attack, the Concord made an unprecedented decision. For the first time, a delegation of high-ranking Concord officials would visit Earth, a Category 5 death world. The delegation included Admiral Weibel, the head counselor, Gayul from Lumina, and representatives from 10 other worlds. They were nervous but determined. The landing site was a meadow in a national park. The alien visitors stepped carefully from their ship, many wearing protective gear despite assurances that Earth's environment was safe for short visits. Ta greeted them alongside Earth's leaders. "Welcome to our home," he said simply. The aliens looked around with a mixture of fear and wonder. The gravity pulled at their bodies. The rich oxygen made some of them lightheaded. The sounds of birds and insects were everywhere. So loud, Gayul whispered, so much life. And these are normal conditions for you? Admiral Gayul asked. His breathing labored in Earth's atmosphere. Perfect conditions, Ta said with a smile. This is one of our most peaceful spots. The delegation was introduced to Na, a human child who had been selected as a cultural ambassador. The 8-year-old girl approached the aliens without fear, offering flowers she had picked. Gayul accepted them with wonder. On my world, children are kept in protective enclosures until adulthood. Na smiled. Would you like to see the lake? We can skip stones and wade in the shallow part. The aliens exchanged nervous glances, but followed the child. At the lake shore, they watched in amazement as Na demonstrated stone skipping, the rocks bouncing across water that would be considered dangerously unsanitary on their worlds. Try it, she encouraged Admiral Lul. The Admiral hesitantly took a flat stone and copied Na's motion. The stone skipped twice before sinking. Yul's face showed a complex mixture of childlike delight and adult surprise. I did it, he said, sounding unlike the stern military commander they knew. Later, they met Hyun, a human artist who had created works specifically to help aliens understand Earth. His paintings showed Earth's diverse environments, from peaceful meadows to raging storms, from gentle ponds to towering mountains. This is what shaped us, Hyun explained. Beauty and danger together. We learned to see beauty in challenge. The head counselor floated before a painting of a lightning storm over mountains. On our world, such a storm would cause mass evacuation. On ours, some people chase storms to photograph them, Hyun said. Others build homes on mountainsides to wake up to such views. Remarkable, the counselor whispered. The visit culminated in a formal ceremony beneath the open sky, something unthinkable for most Concord diplomacy. Light rain began to fall. The human hosts offered umbrellas, but Admiral Iol refused. If humans can endure much worse, he said, I can endure water falling from the sky. As rain dampened his feathers, Admiral Iol presented Earth with the Concord's highest honor, the Star of Unity, never before given to a new member world. We once feared what you were forged by, he announced, his voice carrying across the gathering. Now we understand that what makes you dangerous is precisely what makes you invaluable. You turn challenge into strength. You see opportunity where we see only threat. He handed the crystal star to Ta. The galaxy stands in awe of humanity, not for your power, but for how you use it. The ceremony continued as the rain cleared and a rainbow appeared. The Concord visitors gasped at this common Earth phenomenon, seeing beauty in what had moments ago been discomfort. That evening, Nay organized games between alien children who had come with their parents and local Earth children. Under careful supervision, they splashed in streams, climbed small trees, and roasted marshmallows over a controlled fire. Todd found Admiral Iol watching the children play. They are not afraid of each other, Yul observed. Children rarely are, until they're taught to be, Tay replied. Yul nodded thoughtfully. My great-grandchildren will grow up in a Concord where humans are not feared but respected, where what we once called Deathworlders are simply friends with different strengths. As night fell over Earth, the Concord visitors looked up at the stars with new understanding. The universe was vast and varied. It contained garden worlds and harsh ones, gentle species and tough ones. In that diversity lay strength, if they were wise enough to embrace it. The humans of Earth had been shaped by a challenging world, but that challenge had prepared them to help others. And now, the door to a true galactic community had opened, not despite Earth's nature, but because of it. A small Earth child and a young luminary sat together on a hillside, pointing out constellations to each other, neither aware of how impossible such a friendship would have seemed just months before. In their innocent acceptance of each other lay the true promise of the future, A galaxy where differences were not feared, but celebrated, where standing in awe meant not cowering in fear, but rising in respect. The Deathworlders had saved the day, and the galaxy would never be the same.